$12 million deep in property cribs for his mom, a spot for his pops, and a high-end penthouse parked right out in North Dallas. Yet every ounce of mortar, every signed contract, and every single plot secured under his government name got locked down while Pooh Shiesty was trapped behind bars in a Pennsylvania pen, staring at an endless calendar. Listen up closely, because this isn't your typical tale of an MC securing the bag to cop a mega mansion. Nah, we're talking about an authentic Memphis bloodline playing chess, elevating their grind, and hustling on an entirely different frequency when the masses swore Lontrell Williams Sr. was washed. I'm fixing to dissect the whole portfolio, every transaction, every dollar, every tactical play. When I wrap this up, you'll see clearly how Shiesty touched down and instantly reclaimed his throne. The groundwork wasn't just poured, it was already solid concrete, a $12 million bedrock. Let's peel back the layers. To truly grasp this property takeover, you first have to recognize the man behind the Shiesty moniker. Even deeper than that, you need to study his pops, because the actual mastermind blueprinting this massive land grab wasn't solely the rapper himself. Lontrell Williams Jr. entered this world on November 8, 1999, deep in the heart of Memphis, Tennessee. He survived the trenches of South Memphis, the Cane Creek projects, specifically. You don't make it out of those blocks whispering. Those streets are a pressure cooker. They will either shatter your soul or forge you into absolute steel. That concrete jungle molded Shiesty. His old man, Lontrell Williams Sr., carries a title the Memphis asphalt heavily respects, mob boss. And bro, that is far beyond some fabricated hip-hop stage name. Dude manifested a heavyweight status in South Memphis out of the mud. He launched Club Martini, an absolutely legendary nightlife spot that had the entire city jumping back in the day. He established Mob Ties Records right out the trunk, offering an underground stage for homegrown talent when the mainstream industry was completely ignoring the M-Town sound. He lived in the booth. He mastered the corporate hustle. He spoke the gutter's language. He walked both sides of the fence flawlessly. Bookmark that thought, because the minute his boy skyrockets to fame and subsequently catches a Fed case, mob boss never crumbles. No sweat, no stress, he just shifts gears. The man steps into the general's boots, running the cartel while the frontliner does time. Meanwhile, Shiesty's rise to the top is basically public record. He inked a deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records in 2020. That very cycle, Back in Blood alongside Lil Durk detonates, peaking at spot 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. His inaugural tape, Shiesty Season, drops early 2021, instantly snagging the number 3 slot on the Billboard 200. Spot number 3. The young bull is barely 21 years old and already a global icon. Then, the feds swoop in. June 2021, the gavel drops. 63 months in federal lockup for Shiesty. That's over 5 heavy years, squad. He took a massive plea, admitting to firearm conspiracy tied to street violence and narcotics, pushing a strategic compromise that literally kept him out of a concrete box for eternity. 3 counts vanished, yet he was still shipped to USP Canaan out in PA, easily one of the most heavily fortified compounds the government operates. The streets assumed it was a wrap, run finished, bankrolls depleted, and the clout completely evaporating. Watch the plot twist though. While the rapper rots inside a Pennsylvania cell, his pops, mob boss, is out here actively conquering the housing market, moving like a phantom, executing calculated plays, the type of under-the-radar hustle the media completely misses until the FBI eventually digs through the county files. Allow me to decipher the code. Here's the raw truth. His bloodline never paused for his release date before laying down brick and mortar. They ignited their empire the second those royalty checks cleared, keeping their foot on the gas despite the Fed case. Suddenly, Lontrell Williams begins flooding official ownership titles throughout the greater Memphis district. This is where the strategy goes profound, seeing as the patriarch and the prodigy both rock the exact same legal birth name. Identical first, identical last. The Shelby County tax portal was practically glowing, stamping that exact signature on plot after plot after plot in rapid succession. Before anyone could even run the numbers, upwards of 10 distinct Memphis parcels were legally anchored under Lontrell Williams. 10, plus extra rural real estate traced directly back to his old man. 10 full estates, bro, scattered across the city limits while the kid did time. Keep this completely straight though. We aren't discussing 10 rundown bando spots. The local housing market was catching massive fire. Massive gentrification is happening. We mean high-tier residential units anchored in prime districts that scream permanent financial security. This is that untouchable, old money hustle. We ain't talking about blowing in advance on diamond links. This is that, my blood is touching down to inherit a ready-made kingdom mentality. That is purely mob boss pulling the strings. A trench-made patriarch who decoded the industry matrix and witnessed his offspring catch lightning in a bottle. When the gavel threatened his boy, he skipped the grieving and bossed up. The heaviest public transaction during that drought, a sprawling Cordova estate roughly 20 minutes from the downtown grit. 4 beds, 3.5 baths. Files show an April 2023 purchase at $656,500. originally dropping at $719,000. Some mastermind negotiated it down over 60 grand. You don't just stumble into those margins. Pure tactical genius from a hustler fluent in the language of equity. The rapper remains caged during this play, completely iced until October 2025. Regardless, the turf gets fully transferred to the family crest. Paperwork stamped, escrow drained, shiny new deadbolts unlocked. Just let that resonate in your skull. The average inmate bleeds out watching their stash, cars, and life's work vanish without a loyal crew safeguarding the perimeter. But this particular bloodline, they were multiplying, hoarding acreage and moving grandmaster pieces across the board, completely tricking the public into believing their run was clipped. Yet that ain't even the wildest chapter. Come October 2025, the boy officially struts out of USP Canaan. He ate over 3 years of that 63-month bid. Paroled early for staying solid, the penal complex actually folding when a real one handles their business quietly. Barely 25 years breathing, utterly starving for the top spot. After 3 grueling spins around the sun, he finally witnesses the fortress his tribe constructed in the shadows. Guess his absolute first boss-level maneuver upon hitting the pavement? Dude instantly secures a brand new palace for his mother. Real talk, this hits as one of the heaviest flexes in modern rap history. It ain't just about the heavy bag dropped, even though that check was massive. It speaks volumes on who the Memphis star truly is in the shadows, far away from the flashing lights and clout chasers. February 2026. Barely breathing free air again, the Memphis spitter completely blindsides his moms. Gladys Baines, known to the streets as Mama Shiesty, with a $1.1 million crib, $1.1 million fully cashed out, ink dried on the deed. He tosses the clip on the gram, letting the world witness. You watch her cross that threshold, and the realization instantly washes over her. Metallic balloons float in the kitchen, spelling out home. And Mama Shiesty, the matriarch who anchored the bloodline for over 3 years, while her boy was caught up in the federal belly, who never folded and held on to faith, just completely loses it on the spot. We ain't talking tears of sorrow. It is that raw, unfiltered weeping that bursts out when a blessing hits you out of nowhere. His high-end realtor, Missy Parent, backed up the flex online. She drops the rapper's exact bars from his return anthem, FDO, meaning first day out, right in the caption. The Globe was anticipating my return. I refused to drop the ball. Then she adds, much love for putting your mother's dream in my hand. Appreciate you believing in my grind through it all. Handing over the reins to secure his mom's sanctuary carries a different kind of gravity when you peel back the layers. We are not looking at a basic real estate deal. This is blood making good on a vow forged inside a cold penitentiary cage. I will touch down. I will feed the fam. I refuse to crash out. $1.1 million. Mama Shiesty is blessed forever. His absolute first power play out the gate, dedicated to the queen. Let us lift the curtain on the real mechanics, though. That mansion stays a fantasy if the vault wasn't fiercely guarded while he sat behind bars. It is impossible without mob boss fortifying the empire, keeping the treasury locked tight for over 3 years with zero concert money, zero label handouts, relying purely on streaming royalty checks, and a bloodline that absolutely refused to let the wealth evaporate. The matriarch's estate is the ultimate flex, the hard receipt proving the kingdom remained untouched. Let us pivot to the underlying narrative already brewing way before February 2026 rolled around. The Lone Star situation. This is the exact chapter the masses fail to comprehend, fam. Now, we spill the absolute gutter truth. Upon Pooh Shiesty hitting the streets from federal lockup in October 2025, the system parked him in a Dallas transition spot. Routine government protocol. You do the bid, then you navigate halfway houses in strict supervision before touching absolute freedom. Paperwork straight from the Bureau of Prisons places his bunk right in Dallas, plotting an April 11th, 2026 parole cutoff. Meaning for a whole season post-prison, Dallas served as his stomping grounds, his fortress. And upholding the Williams Code, they flipped the script on Texas living. In that time frame, the spitter is linked directly to a high society condo up in Windrose Tower over at Legacy West. Let me illustrate this landscape for you. Legacy West sits in the upper echelons of North Dallas, deep in the Plano territory, easily ranking as the most exclusive, heavily desired concrete in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth sprawl. Billion-dollar boardrooms, 5-star plates, designer boutiques, the exact zoning where a single month's rent eclipses a regular citizen's yearly wage. Windrose Tower ain't just a building, it is sky-high opulence. Wall-to-wall skylines, white glove treatment, the exact establishment running its own elite HOA cartel with strict muscle and rigid rules on neighborhood pedigree. That became his royal suite while shaking off the federal rust. And the lease paperwork explicitly ties both his and his pop's signatures. Mob boss remains front and center in the frame, standard operating procedure for the Williams Syndicate. They step as an unbreakable unit, blood to blood, unified on the paperwork, unified in the trenches. But suddenly, turbulence hits. An eviction threat drops. The management firm, Monogroup LLC, hurls a final warning regarding lease breaches at the duo, triggered by constant complaints from the tower's elite board. The write-ups flooded in between November 13th and December 7th, 2025, smack in that honeymoon phase after his release. The document barks, "Every single event represents a critical violation of our residential code." Decoding the corporate speak, the high-rise executives were terrified of the street energy pulsating from that penthouse. Stacks of complaints, non-stop drama, officially logged on paper. What kind of wild moves were really going down? That is where the paper trail vanishes and hood rumors take over. But here is the undeniable truth. Those exact condo violations quickly merged into the massive federal microscope, tracking the rapper as 2025 bled into 2026. Yet that Texas high-rise reveals everything about their massive wealth-building blueprint. No matter how the dominoes fell, even while chained to federal monitoring programs, even when the state technically held his papers, they demanded top-tier living. The benchmark was Legacy West. The baseline was a sky mansion up north, utterly rejecting any filthy halfway cot or cheap motel survival. That boss mindset, completely rejecting any downgrade despite heavy legal warfare, runs deep in the Williams bloodstream. It is the exact same hustle that copped the Cordova estate while he sat in a cage. The same raw ambition that poured $1.1 million into his mom's castle the second the gates opened. It is the ultimate street doctrine screaming, "We never fold. We never make ourselves smaller. We ain't settling for crumbs when we bake the whole loaf." That Dallas high-rise is just one slice of the pie. Just another pin dropped on a map of pure generational wealth that the Williams crew been stacking brick by brick, season after season, block after block, stretching from the M to Texas. But peep this plot twist nobody saw coming, y'all. The whole stash, the crib for moms, the Cordova compound, over 10 Memphis spots, and that lavish Dallas skybox, kept completely off the radar until the suits kicked down the doors and put it on blast. April 1st, 2026, 6 in the morning. The Alphabet Boys are swarming that Cordova sanctuary, a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath fortress posted on Beaver Valley Lane, tearing the spot apart for hours, marching out with screens and brown bags stuffed with so-called proof, tossing every whip in the garage. You got the state boys riding shotgun with the federales, turning the place upside down. Civilians rubbernecking from the curb, but the star player ain't even home. The authorities bagged him in a whole separate Texas sweep. His pops, the real OG, gets snatched up at the Cordova spot. Bloodline taken down before breakfast, while 8 others get grabbed across 3 cities all at once. Once the nosy media started digging through the county papers, trying to clock exactly who was holding the deed to this palace, trying to decode the family's true DNA, that's the exact moment the sheer magnitude of their property empire got exposed to the streets. They run the government name, and the system catches fire. Deeds popping up left and right all over the city grid over 10 different locations, plus the patriarch's hidden acres out past the city limits. That $656,500 Cordova base, the $1.1 million crib for his mama that broke the net 2 months prior, and the Texas hookup. The timeline's completely spontaneously combusted, man, because this instantly morphed past your typical hip-hop takedown narrative. The front page flipped from courtroom drama to the heavy bags being stacked in the shadows while everyone else was distracted by the glitz and the legal mess. A $12 million Monopoly board put together in ghost mode, only brought to light because the task force came hunting for a whole different prize. That's the coldest, most chess-like move in the playbook, straight up. This bloodline moved in total silence, no flexing title papers on the gram. The OG wasn't out here doing interviews about snatching up city blocks while his blood was doing a bid behind the wall. They kept the financial flex deep undercover. The tracks fed the fans, but the real empire building stayed completely locked down until the badges blew the hinges off. The concrete jungle always preaches. The realest heavyweights never whisper about the skyscraper until the penthouse is already furnished. Pull the lens back a minute, bro, because this narrative dwarfs one artist, dwarfs the M, and dwarfs one bloodline's hustle. This is about a riddle the culture's been trying to crack for 40 years flat. How exactly do you take that fast cash from the corner in the booth and morph it into concrete power that doesn't fade? Something your offspring can actually inherit. A foundation that stands tall long after the billboard hype dies and the new wave takes the throne. 9 times out of 10, the tragic truth is you don't. You blow the bag, catch a case, do your time, and step back out to empty pockets. That royalty check gets swallowed by defense attorneys, bondsmen, flashy living, and every leech who fed off your clout. It's a toxic loop suffocating the game. A vicious trap that has dead-ended generational riches for a million families who had the golden ticket right in their palms. But this squad completely shattered that curse. And the exact method they used to break out is a straight-up masterclass. It kicks off with the patriarch seeing the matrix clearly. He knew his boy's rapid rise was just a temporary crack in the door. A fleeting moment that could violently slam shut without warning, whether from catching heat or just the industry moving on. So the play wasn't about popping bottles and flossing. The ultimate objective was laundering that fame into untouchable brick and mortar before the clock ran out. Rap checks are a roller coaster. Spotify clicks dip and dive, and those label contracts eventually bleed dry. The stage lights cut off the second you can't rock a mic. But holding the actual papers to a plot in the city, that holds its weight forever. That equity swells, the value skyrockets, and those tenant checks keep clearing long after you stop dropping hot 16s. That secures the bloodline for generations if you draw up the paperwork like a boss. So while the young king was locked down in USP Canaan, his old man was flipping rap capital into tangible dirt, copying house after house, signature after signature, dropping bags on over 10 different power plays across the map, snagging a $656,500 fortress in April 2023, right in the middle of a bid, securing another hidden spot just for the pops, piecing together an entire monopoly board in the shadows, moving strictly military with zero clout chasing. Fast forward to the kid touching down in October 2025, reclaiming his throne, and his very first boss move is dropping a $1.1 million bag on a sanctuary for his moms. That type of flex screams real street principles. Anybody can run their mouth about feeding the team once they blow up, but stepping out of the Fed's cage and immediately cashing out $1 million palace for the woman who birthed you, that puts you in a completely different weight class. Run the numbers. That sprawling Cordova fortress, those 10-plus spots scattered across the city, that lavish Windrose Tower high-rise down in Texas, and that $1.1 million matriarch estate. $12 million in pure concrete, built through storms and state lines that would have bankrupted a lesser man's hustle. That right there is the sacred text, bro. Keep your mouth shut, hoard that equity, shield your bloodline at all costs, uphold the code. So when your soldiers finally beat the system and march back to the block, gotta build a concrete foundation for when the bid is up. Game recognizes game, and straight up, this blueprint is pure authenticity. Let me drop a heavy gem on your mental before we bounce. The streets idolize the ice. We glorify the foreign whips, the popped bottles, and the cinematic flex. No cap, popping your collar after a brutal hustle is completely valid. Shiesty snagged his bag. The OG bossed up. The Williams crew literally fought the trenches for their entire stash. So why do they thrive while countless rappers fumble the exact same bag and end up flat broke? It boils down to those behind-the-scenes chess moves. Knowing true paper ain't about the gram flex. It is about holding the keys and stamping your name on the property title. It is holding weight in the tax logs. That safety net catching you when the industry hype fades, feds start sweeping, and the universe throws devastating curveballs. $12 million stacked up in concrete blocks by a Memphis squad who deaded the curse of letting their profits evaporate like their temporary struggles. Shiesty's narrative is still being penned. Fighting those heavy federal charges at the top of 2026 is no joke, and only the clock will reveal his fate. Yet, the property saga, that diversified asset flex, the legend of an OG anchoring the empire while his heir catches a bid to guarantee a lucrative throne to reclaim, that manuscript is fully printed and stands out as the most crucial wealth-building blueprint hip-hop has witnessed in the past 10 years. Sound off in the comment section. Did the OG play this hand perfectly? What is stopping the rest of the trenches from adopting this millionaire mindset? Talk to me. Hit that subscribe button if you crave the raw, uncut street gospel. We sliding.